Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Today's video is going to be for all you people struggling with the worst of the worst of the worst, the reading slump. The reading slump, it's not ideal, especially at this time of year when we have like our cozy vibes. We've got so many atmospheric reads to be reading. We've got like the rain on the window, the big fluffy blankets to curl up in and just read a book. Like, that's the vibe that we're going for. That's what we want this time of year, and we don't want people to be in those nasty reading slumps because it's actually not a vibe. So these are my top tips on how to get out of a reading slump, because we don't want that, especially this time of year. So top tip number 1 is to take yourself out around a bookstore. Go shopping, take yourself out to the bookstore, to the bookshop, whether that's Waterstones, or if you're in America, Barnes and Noble, or The Works even, WH Smith, like independent bookstores. Just take yourself to a bookstore, get a fun drink, get a nice seasonal iced coffee, or just a hot coffee or a hot chocolate, whatever you like to drink, a matcha if you will. Get a nice fun drink and take yourself to the bookshop. Have a little browse, have a stroll around with your fun drink, stroll around those shelves and just have a look at what is on offer. Have a look what's new, have a look on the new tables as you walk in, have a look on all of those. Make it an excuse to go out to the bookshop and just have a browse. You don't have to buy anything, but just kind of reignite your love for books. Be surrounded by books, be surrounded by all the new editions, the new releases, special editions. Just kind of like put yourself back into the atmosphere of books, you know? And if you do leave with a purchase or two, then that's a bonus. But you don't have to obviously buy anything when you do this. Just make it a fun day out, make it an experience, make it your plan for the afternoon, for the morning, for the day, for the night. Just go with your fun drink, maybe even take a friend and just walk around having a look at all the different books. Honestly, that's like my favourite thing to do. It's so fun, and just make a day of it. Like book off like a few hours, just go and do that, and I think that will really help get back into the swing of things. Tip number 2 is to pick up a really short read. Don't go into expecting anything, don't go into expecting anything crazy, anything like life-changing. Pick up a super short read. It might be like 100 pages, it could be a short story, it might be 200 pages. Just to pick up a short, quick, easy, almost like no brain power read, and just sit and read that. You don't put pressure on yourself to read a super long book, a super big series. No commitments, just a short book. And the feeling that you get when you finish a book is honestly so good. You feel so accomplished, you feel so like you've completed a challenge, you've completed a task. So if you can do that with a short book, just get that done in like a couple of days, a week, you know, however long it takes you to read a short book. Just that feeling that comes from it, for me, always like makes me want to read more. And it's like, oh, I just finished a book, like this feels so good, let's go and finish another one. And just start by reading short books again. Don't put pressure on yourself to read these crazy long books, these crazy long series. Or also don't put pressure on yourself to read a super anticipated read that's on your TBR. Just pick a super short one. There's no harm in picking up a short book. My third tip is to go back and reread one of your 6-star reads, one of your absolute god tier favourite books ever. Go back and reread them and re-spark that love, reignite that love for what you felt when you was reading that book. It might make you feel inspired to carry on reading the series that you loved, or it might make you feel inspired to pick up a new book. But just go back and sort of show yourself that you once did really love that book, and you can love a book like that again. So I would say like pick up, I don't know, I would probably pick up A Court of Mist and Fury. I love rereading that book. It always makes me want to read more. I was in a super bad reading slump. I'd not read like a book for like 3 months, I think, last year, and then I picked up A Court of Mist and Fury, read that, and it kind of got me back wanting to read more. I put a playlist on and it got me back into the mood, back into the reading mindset. And I think also it's super easy to read a book that you've already read. It takes less brain power, it takes less time, because you already know what's coming up next, you already know what the story is, and you're just revisiting the characters that you love. My fourth tip is to pick up an atmospheric read. So say for instance it is October right now, or October coming up, and it's super gloomy outside. It's obviously spooky season, it's orange leaves, it's pumpkins, that kind of vibe, it's ghosts, scary films. So because you're in that season, pick up a book that matches the atmosphere. So for instance, it's October, so I might pick up The Woman in Black by Susan Hill, and I would read this because it's matching the atmosphere going on outside. It's putting me in that spirit, in that mood, in that season. It's making me feel like just I'm matching the season, you know, like it's raining outside. This book is super dark and gothic, so it would match. Like if I'm reading this and it's raining outside, the vibes would match, and it would just feel like, oh, I'm reading a book right now and it's super gloomy outside and this book matches, and it kind of puts you into the headspace of the book even more. So if it's summer, for instance, pick up a summer cutesy rom-com read and read it outside or on the beach or wherever you are, and it's gonna match. Pick up a book that matches the atmosphere of the season outside. That always helps me, and I love doing that. Tip number 5 is to make a playlist for the book that you're about to read, or a book that you just love, or it doesn't even have to be for a specific book. Just make a playlist for reading. Make a playlist that says like, and title it really specific. So it might be like, this playlist is for when it's super gloomy outside, I'm curled up under a blanket with a hot chocolate reading a book, and then add all of the songs into that playlist that match that vibe. And then whenever it is that vibe outside, or you're feeling that vibe, then you can just play that playlist and it's going to match, and you're going to get into the headspace, and it's going to just make the whole experience of reading that book 10 times better, because you've got the ambience of the music on, you've got the music that matches, and 9 times out of 10 you will love those songs. Those songs will be some of your favourite songs, so it's obviously going to be a great experience all round. For instance, I personally love putting on like a country playlist if I'm going to read a small town book. I always put on a country vibes, cowgirl-esque playlist when I'm reading an Elsie Silver book, and it just makes me feel like I'm there in the small town with them. Tip number 6 is to just go easy on yourself. Do not set unrealistic goals day by day. So for instance, if you're in a really bad reading slump, don't be like, oh, you need to finish this book like today, you need to read the whole thing today, you need to finish a book. You just need to push through it. It's okay to DNF books, it's okay to not want to pick up a book that day, but just set really, really, really minuscule small goals each day. So it might be like, today I'm going to read a chapter, I'm going to set aside 20 minutes, I'm going to read a chapter. Or it might be, today I'm going to read 10 pages, or I'm going to read 20 pages. And you can start increasing it day by day as you go. The more you get into the book, or the more you start enjoying reading again, or the more you start enjoying that specific book. But just day by day, set really small goals. And if you're not enjoying the book, it's okay to just DNF it, start a new one. No one's stopping you from just DNFing it. If I didn't like this book and I was like maybe 50 pages in, just put it down. You don't have to DNF it forever. Just soft DNF it, put it to the side, pick up another one, and just keep going until you find the book that you actually really want to sit down and binge and read, and you really enjoy it. Because if you're going to try push yourself through a book that you're not enjoying, you're just going to get into more of a reading slump. It's not going to be good, and then you're going to find it hard to get out of the reading slump as a whole. So what I like to do is just set little goals for myself, which will literally just be read a chapter today, or read a chapter this morning, read a chapter this night, and then that day I've managed to read 2 chapters, and I'm 2 chapters further into the book, or I'm 2 chapters further into anything really. It doesn't have to be of the same book. Just set really small goals for yourself. Or sometimes I'll be like, okay, today read 50 pages if I'm feeling like I could read a bit more that day, and that really helps me to get through a book. That's probably one of my biggest tips. My next tip is to join a book club. This is really accessible these days because you can just go on like the Fable app, join a book club. I know a lot of booktubers and things like that do have book clubs, so you can just join them, and then they'll usually set an amount of chapters or pages to read each month or each week or whatever, and then you're following along these chapters with other people, and there's like a group chat and you can be messaging about, you know, that chapter, what's happened, share your thoughts, feelings. And I think that talking to people about the book that you're reading really helps you to push through a reading slump, or it helps you to get into it more. It helps you to really just feel like you are in the book a lot more. So I would say definitely join a book club. You don't even have to know the booktuber or know the person that runs the book club. I would say Fable is probably the best bet if you don't have any like locally around you, or if you do, then try start one with your friends and you can all read the same book and all read the same chapters every week or whatever, and you're all holding each other accountable because you're all reading those chapters together, so you can keep sharing at the end of the week or at the end of the month. And I find that it's really nice to get through a book. So for instance, if I had a book club and I was reading Funny Story as my book club's pick, then every week we might read up to pick like chapter 10, and then at the end we'll discuss, or as we're going there'll be like a group chat to message about. I think that would be a really great way to get through a reading slump, because you feel like you're not in it alone. You kind of like being held accountable to read the book because you're amongst other people also reading it. And if you really didn't like the book, then you obviously didn't have to read it. But I think a lot of times sharing your opinions and your thoughts with other people really helps to enjoy the book more. I love talking about books with people. My next tip is to pick a book completely out of your comfort zone. So if you have only been reading romance books for the past like 2 months, the past however long, it's just been romance book, romance book, romance book, romance book, and you're finding like you're in a rut, that's all you've been reading, all the romance books are feeling like they're the same, then I would recommend just picking up one that is completely different to that genre. So for instance, if I've only been reading romance books, then I might pick up like a thriller. Like a Riley Sager thriller is going to be completely different to the romance books I'm reading, so my brain has to switch on a bit more. It's opening me up to completely new stories, new characters, new styles of writing, and we're not just sticking to the same genre, which obviously reading repetitively could start feeling a little bit like they're all the same, and it's just making you in a slump because nothing's different. So if you switch up the genre, then you might be like, whoa, like this is keeping me on my toes, it's making me think a bit more, it's a lot different to what I've been reading. And then if you read this one, you really enjoy it, because you've been in a thriller mindset, it might feel nice to go back to your favourite genre, which would be romance. So you've kind of like gone romance, 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 thriller, enjoyed it, back to romance. And it might feel a little bit like we've switched up a bit. It might make the romance books you've been reading feel different again, who knows, or if it doesn't, then switch to another genre. You might go to a literary fiction, you might go to a fantasy, you might go to a non-fiction, and just keep switching up your genres so you're not getting into a rut with the same one. Another fun tip I like to do is, I think, making a Pinterest board of one of maybe your favourite books, or just a book that you plan on reading, like an aesthetic board, really makes me feel like quite creative. It makes me feel like I really want to go and read the book that I've made the mood board for, or it makes me feel like refreshed if I'm making one for one I've already read. I think it's so fun to just go and add loads of pictures on Pinterest to a big board, or just pin loads and title it the book name or whatever, or just the aesthetic that you want to go for. And then I don't know, you can kind of like go through the board, and it just kind of refreshes that love for the book, or it makes you want to read a book. And I think it's really fun to just look at loads of pictures and images as well of the book. It makes you feel like you're in it, it makes you feel like you know more about it. And I just love a Pinterest board. I love a mood board, I love a Pinterest board. It makes me feel super creative, and it's also just really fun. And my last tip today is to take yourself off to a change of scenery. Take yourself out of the house, out of, you know, if you've been trying to read on your sofa, you've got no ambience around you, you've got no noise around you, you've got nothing going on, it's just you with the book, and it's like, oh, like I could reach my phone right now, I could do this, I could do this, like I could be doing this, because you're just kind of in your house. If you just take yourself off, and you take yourself off specifically to go and read at maybe like a coffee shop, or at the park, or in your car, if you like drive. I've seen a lot of people on TikTok drive to a really nice location, and then they'll sit in their car with like a drink or a snack, and then they'll just read looking out onto that view. If you just take yourself off to a nice location, a nice scenery, like for me, I would like to go to a coffee shop, get a nice coffee, and then sit and read the book, because there's nothing that you could be doing other than that in that like setting. Whereas at home you could be doing so much more. You could be thinking about, you know, cleaning or doing your work or whatever. But if you just dedicate like an hour of your time to going out to a different location, a different setting, then it might feel a little bit easier to go and just read specifically. So I think, you know, it's because you've dedicated that time to doing that, and you can just go and sit and do that and get comfy, read a good like 50 pages of your book, and then that's your reading time, and then you can go do whatever you had to do after that or before that. And I just think a change of scenery always really helps me when I'm feeling a little bit slumpy. It makes me feel like I've gotten out the house as well. And I also find that I do get quite a lot of reading done when I change my scenery. So that is one of my top tips as well. So I hope that after this video you have found at least a few tips to help yourself get out of a reading slump, or, you know, if you felt the reading slump coming on, then you've kind of prevented it. You know, I hope that you found something to help you from this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any other tips of yourself, like of your own as well, leave them in the comments. I'm sure a lot of people would like to see. I would like to see some extra tips as well, because no one wants to be in a reading slump at all. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye guys.